Rambam says that they did fast during the time of Bayit Sheni on Tisha B'Av, not the other 3 fast days, but during the time on Tisha B'Av, during that period, the Jewish people did fast. And the question is why? The Gaon of Rogatchow, Rabbi Yosef Rozhin, Exile, points out very correctly in his work Sofnath Pa'anach on the Rambam that the Rambam has a different understanding of the concepts of Geula and Churban. Rambam looks at the reality of Bayit Sheni and sees an imperfect reality, because on the one hand there was a Mikdash, on the other hand the Jewish people, for the most part, for the vast majority of the time of Bayit Sheni, were living under foreign rule, foreign subjugation, and sometimes things were very dire indeed, but certainly things were far from perfect. And according to the Sugya and Rosh Hashanah, it is only when things are perfect that the fast days are to become days of celebration. For example, we find in Sefer Ezra, in chapter 9, Pasuk 9, Ki avadim anachnu. This is being said at the same time, roughly, or approximately the same period, that Zechariah Navi gives his answer to the Jewish people. In other words, the early stages of Bayit Sheni. And here we find in Sefer Ezra, the situation is being described as Ki avadim anachnu. We are subjugated. Uva'abduthenu lo azavanu Elohenu. But Hashem has not abandoned us. Wayat alenu hasad lifnei malchei faras. And Hashem has shown us favor and put us in the good graces of the emperors and the heads of the Persian Empire. Lathath lanu mihya, to give us some hold on a national existence here in Eretz Yisrael. L'romem et Beth Elohenu, to rebuild the Mikdash. Ulahamid et Horvotho, to rebuild it and the city. Walatheth lanu ghader, and to give us a foothold, the Yehuda of Yerushalayim. In other words, the reality of living under Persian occupation, Persian conquest, being part of a foreign empire, is plainly and openly being described in Sefer Ezra as being in the situation of Avduth. If that is the situation of Avduth, which pertained for the most of the time of Bayit Sheni, initially under the Persians, afterwards under the Greeks, and later under the Romans, and in fact things got progressively worse. The Persians are relatively benign, the Greeks less so, and the Romans even less so. In other words, the situation became more and more severe and dire. The fact is that the Jewish people living in that reality are described in Sefer Ezra as being in a state of avduth, of subjugation. That is not a situation that can be described as one of shalom, of peace and of calm, where the situation is entirely satisfactory, as the Gemara in Rosh Hashanah discusses. Therefore, Rambam understands that both the Psukim in Zechariah, which he understands to be referring to a future time, not the time of Bayit Sheni, and the Mishnah in Rosh Hashanah, which talks about Tisha B'Av being kept as a fast day, he understands that to refer not only to the time after the Churban, but also to the time prior to the Churban. And this seems a very rational and reasonable understanding of the historical realities, whereas according to the views of other Rishonim, such as Rashi and Tosafot, that when there is a Mikdash, there is no fast day, and that this is the only yardstick by which to judge the historical reality of a particular period, we find ourselves in a rather strange position of being in a situation of avduth, of a situation which is far from perfect, although there is a Mikdash, that's true, but again, that's not the only consideration, or at least according to Rambam it's not, whereas according to Rashi and Tosafot, that seems to be the only consideration. And this seems to tie in very precisely with two different positions, as the Rogatchover points out, regarding the Geula and the Churban. According to the Rambam, Geula is a situation which is made up of many elements. The Mikdash is one of those elements, a very major element, but it is not the entire picture. It is not the only consideration. Whereas in the eyes of others, questions of national sovereignty, independence, freedom, etc., are apparently of much more minor importance when compared to the issue of whether the Mikdash stands. So, do we know what went on at the time of Bayit Sheni? We can't be certain in terms of what actually was done, but according to Rambam, Tisha B'Av was kept as a fast day because the situation was not not as it should be, not the ideal and normative reality of the Jewish people. And that is in fact why we also are required to fast on Tisha B'Av today. Because today we may have many elements in our national existence which are in every way superior to that which existed during the time of Beit Sheni, but the one major issue that is lacking in our national existence and also in our personal lives is the Mikdash. And therefore we are required to fast nowadays on Tisha B'Av.
Thank you, Rabbi Bar-Hayim. We would like to encourage our viewers to share these videos with friends and send in your responses. We would also like to suggest the following opportunity to our viewers. If you identify with Rabbi Bar-Hayim's message and would like to sponsor or dedicate a video interview with the rabbi in honor or memory of a loved one, if you would like to obtain Birkon Nusach Eretz Yisrael or invite the rabbi for a speaking engagement, please email us at office@machonshilo.org.